We are now. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's special meeting of the Freeport City Council. It is Wednesday, November 5th, 6:01 p.m. I will declare that a quorum is present and will officially call the meeting to order. At this time, I will ask Councilman Rosso to lead us in both the pledge and the prayer.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for another day, another opportunity to come together and make decisions. Lord, we pray that you would deal with our minds, deal with our hearts. Bless this council, bless the mayor, city manager, everyone under the sound of my voice. We ask your blessings. Bless this city, bless this state, bless this nation. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you, and you may be seated. As usual, we will start with citizens' comments, and I must state, prior to moving on, agenda item 2A, there will be no action taken on it because that was handled on Monday. I say that because on Monday, everybody that wanted to talk about this said, no, I want to wait, I want to wait, I want to wait. So, if you want to talk about it, this is your time. Let me get my time clock set up here. Move back up to 4 minutes. First on my list is Mr. Ron Bachman.
See if I can do this without getting lost in my own notes tonight. Good evening, Mayor, Councilman, and other city officials. I'm Ron Bachman, and I reside at 96 Dolphin Lane, Freeport, Texas. I stand before you today to encourage you to see through the misleading and prejudicial statements in the agenda and consider only what's best for Freeport's future. Ordinance 155.1109 has been in place for several years, and it appears to me that its intent was to relieve the City Council of what are usually mundane requests by a property owner and avoid the incessant bickering and filibustering that can drag City Council meetings into the wee hours of the morning. So, as a member of Planning and Zoning Commission, I can assure you that we give serious consideration to all the requests that come before us. We weigh those requests against the applicable codes and ordinances and apply our best judgment to balance the property owner's rights and protections to the city's other property owners that are established in the codes. Changing 155.1109 to allow some requests to skip P&Z and come directly to the City Council will likely lead to potential conflicts of interest and will certainly diminish the transparency of city government that most of us hold dear. It will also increase the burden on council by requiring members to try to understand poorly written requests, incomplete property descriptions, property zoning codes, and other issues that we regularly deal with. Our recent denial on the request to rezone the 300-plus acres from R2 and MH to industrial had nothing to do with the history of this property. The name Wong that's being thrown around was never mentioned. We would have preferred to discuss rezoning part of it, but no property owner's representative was there. Our choices were either approve or deny. Given the brevity of the request, we could not find it in the best interest of Freeport to approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Mr. Gary Guerrieri.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Gary Gray. I live at 99 Dolphin Lane. This is more of a general comment on the way things are going here. I thought for the level of importance and some of the discussions that are here lately, I would expect more of the citizens to be here, but hopefully we have a big online crowd and they'll spread the word of anything interesting here. I know they like to watch a good soap opera, or it's almost like trying to solve it. The point tonight is that there seems to be a power play at work in the city of Freeport. And as you would guess, those situations benefit those in position and with power, and not so much the people. I think there's an undertow that seeks to control the decision-making. I've heard statements that some boards like planning and zoning or the EDC are stacked, but those departments still have oversight over their associated projects or changes that have been reviewed over time. So I think it's important that I see a trend where people push for the ability to override these decisions on long-term projects and things that have received considerable review. I also see that they're trying to reduce the number of votes required to make final decisions. I think those are signs of someone wanting to have control with less people behind the decision-making. That's where the real stacking has its final say. When people take these votes, it takes fewer and fewer people to approve. I think it's important to think about that. And I guess on my final note, I'd like to say you need to judge people on what they do, not what they say, because a lot of things are said in here and then people do other things. It's my 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Next, we have Con McLeister.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Con McLeister. I reside at Dolphin Lane in Freeport. I tried to put together some things that are my thoughts more than anything else. The planning and zoning puts together a master plan. It's a 10-year plan that's to be reviewed every 5 years. They are the ones responsible for writing it up, getting it to the council, seeing that it's maintained year to year, seeing that we're following the plan year to year. The new approved zoning regulations that we just approved in 22, 3 years ago, we just had a whole new map, all new zoning regulations put in place as part of the master plan. And we're trying to follow that. The changes in zoning cleared up some existing problems such as spot zoning, which is what we're talking about the other night, is what somebody's requesting, and some non-conforming uses. The background for this requested change right now, if you read it, it sounds very silly to me. The P&Z members are involved full-time along with city code enforcement, providing the city council members with solid recommendations and actions that they have ruled according to zoning regulations and city codes. Not a single member acquainted with the, can't read my own writing, with the requirements for planning and zoning changes, recommend this. Oh, I screwed this one all up. What it amounts to is they are the most qualified people we have. You appointed them to this job to have their advice. They've been in it now for a number of years. They know the zoning code forward and backwards. We need them in place. The requirement for a 3/4, well, I'm going off not just the text amendment, but the text amendment is tied in with the request from the other night, which was about the 3/4 majority vote for overriding denial of planning and zoning. The statement was made that planning and zoning has more power than this council. That's not true. This council appoints planning and zoning. and they also have a vote. All we have here is one item that requires a supermajority of 3/4. That is not uncommon. That is even included in the new legislation, Senate Bill 1524 and 840. There are certain zoning decisions that require a supermajority there too. So this is not uncommon. It is common, and it's necessary to see that the citizens of this city are treated fairly. I'm going to go back to zoning 101. The first thing is industrial should not be put next to residential neighborhoods. That's what commercial's for. They are the buffer between. And to take something that's been residential, as far as I know, forever, even before the new zoning changes, and now try to change it into industrial would be a mistake.
Mr. McLeister, I'm sorry, but time's up.
Okay, thank you.
Diane McLeister.
So do we cheer that the Dolphin Street's here?
You're well represented tonight.
Yes. We're really concerned about the zoning and changing zoning and doing something with the Board of Adjustments and the zoning, planning and zoning. But I'd like to thank you for letting me speak. I'm Diane McLeister, 97 Dolphin. The Planning and Zoning Board is a regulated part of the City Council that enforces land use and real estate regulations. Planning and zoning boards help guide community development by ensuring the land use aligns with the community's vision and ensures zoning decisions are made in public interest. Their goal is to strive to make a balance between property owners' rights and the public rights for a safe, secure, and orderly neighborhood. The council appoints the members of the Planning and Zoning Board. The board has decision criteria to follow in Ordinance 154.502. Correct information is needed to make the right decision. That's why boards are created. Uninformed decisions are rarely the right decision. A supermajority vote is not about power, but about taking planning and zoning's, by not taking planning's and zoning's decision lightly. Just because one individual wants something does not make this correct. There is neighbors and people surrounding it. A no vote reversal by planning and zoning needs to be reached. A no vote reversal by planning and zoning needs to be researched how changing it would affect the master plan, zoning, and the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Miss Sandra Woodwicky.
I'll go at the end.
Sandra wants to go at the end. Miss Sandra. How about Eric Hayes?
Here we are again. Eric Hayes, 1507 West Broad Street. First off, I would like to point out that I was really surprised when I seen this come up on the agenda the other night and to speak on this. As far as I can remember, other than George being at a few planning commission meetings, no one else has come to the planning commission meetings. Councilman Davis made a comment that we all had his number, could reach out and call. Well, the same goes with the planning and zoning. If you thought we were doing a bad job and you didn't agree with our decision, you could have come to the board and talked to us at the planning and zoning. Not spring it in here to try to super invent the laws and change the laws so they suit y'all and suit a certain few to rezone some property. We have 5 people on that board, and it was a unanimous decision of 4. We're missing 1, which is 30 days past time. Y'all should have appointed someone to that position, and it's still vacant. Besides that, we have 4 people. We made a recommendation to City Council That's why we're put on these boards, is to make recommendations, to go through and look at the procedure and make the right recommendation for Freeport. That's a safeguard of 5 people. All it takes is 3 people on council to agree if we're going along with the planning commission. If you're going against 5 other people, why should that safeguard not be in place? It seems ridiculous to remove a safeguard that protects the citizens so that any 3 rogue council members could change zoning ordinance that could affect the whole entire city of Freeport. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Mr. David McGinty.
Good evening, y'all.
Good evening.
David McGinty, 521 West Broad. I'm speaking against this item. With this comment or statement, I mean no disrespect towards anyone here. It's simply my thoughts and beliefs on the topic. The efforts to change how the city council can overturn a well-thought-out decisions brought before our city by city boards and commissions, in my mind, is just a power play to get, for certain few to get their way and ensure that they get their way. And everybody else that's already spoken have went through all the technical stuff about the P&Z, so I'm going to move this a little different direction. This is primarily being brought up because of the long urban renewal land and how he wants to get it rezoned. He has wanted to get it rezoned for many, many, many years. And he believes he's finally found a city council that'll do that. He will never build a house on the urban renewal, I guarantee it. He won't build anything. He's a land speculator. He buys and sells. He will not build anything out there. And he has stated as such. So now he come in here and y'all get him here, he'll talk sweet to you and make all the promises in the world, but he won't keep those promises because he never has. Never. So, number one, and in closing, Mr. Wong will never build a house on the urban renewal, ever. Mr. Wong has never provided a real plan to develop a residential neighborhood on the renewal land, ever. Changing this rule will only benefit Mr. Wong's efforts to renege on his promises made, period. There may be others that benefit from it, but I wouldn't know who they are. Number 4, are we, the active citizens of Freeport, wasting our time and efforts by volunteering our city to help our city move forward? If we change this rule, what's next? Maybe the city council will just decide to replace us all and they'll make all the decisions because they've got to be smarter than us, apparently. When y'all do this sort of things, the city council has no real opposition or does not want to hear the opposition to things that they want to do. And then that's not transparent or whatever. Maybe transparent the fact that they don't really care about our thoughts and how it should be done. So in my mind, this is only about the current and long-standing effort by a land speculator with the help of our current city council to ignore and completely renege on contracts and deals made in the past so he can write new rules and do what he wants. And that's what this is about. I mean, it may be other things in the future, but right this minute, this is what this is about. Circumventing certain rules and protections just so a land speculator can possibly get his way. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Next, we have Mr. Andrew Dill.
Andrew Dill, 132 Brazos Landing Court. When when did it get this far, get unreasonable? This rule, 155-1108, it's funny how it never was an issue. It was not controversial one bit until it came into conflict with Clinton Wong's request. And I was on August 20th in the city manager's office, Mr. Pennington, and with our city attorney, Chris Duncan, told, no, that rule doesn't exist. And then we opened the book and it was, now here we are with an ordinance to get rid of it. And then I said, well, what about 1109 in a phone call? And then an email sent to the city attorney, and now, lo and behold, another ordinance to get rid of 1109. I think if I just keep listing things in our code, we'll just keep coming up with more things to take away. In fact, I think page 71 to 81 in our zoning ordinance, we can go ahead and get rid of those. You can go and look those up, or I can send them to you. This has got me mad, this memo. The chairman of P&Z has made statements asserting that P&Z holds more power than the council, and council answers to P&Z. I never said that. Never said anything like that. We serve at your pleasure. If you don't like how we vote, get rid of us. Appoint new commissioners. I mean, I think it would be hard to find 4 or 5 commissioners who would vote for this rezoning of 325 acres of industrial park. But you won't need 5, you only need 3. I guess that's the goal of this whole procedural thing we're doing, to have 3 votes instead of any more than that. Here's something I find kind of fun. The city council makes the following findings of fact. Again, the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the inhabitants of the city will be served by the adoption of this amendment. Let's see what it does. Let's read it in its impact. The health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the inhabitants of the city will be best served by consolidating power in the hands of fewer people. The health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the inhabitants of the city will be best served by removing checks and balances. The health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the inhabitants of the city will be best served by allowing residential land to be used for industrial use if just 3 people agree. And the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the inhabitants of the city will be best served if land use can be changed by giving a few $1,000 to a few councilmen. In closing, there's a growing spreadsheet. Names, addresses, phone numbers, cell phone numbers of those who have signed on to the protest. Many of them never got their notice. In fact, not a single one I ever talked to said they received their notice. They'll receive it now.
Thank you, Mr. Dill. All right, Ms. Woodwicky.
Amen, brother.
I've lived in this city most of my life. I'm not here now, but I've served at Councilman's pleasure. Y'all are supposed to be the ones that put the right people in the right place. That shows that you respect them and you trust them. This is a slap in the face. They put, I've watched Eric. I've known Eric since he was born. I am so amazed at what he has learned and what he has done, how serious he takes this. He can quote this stuff. That takes a lot of time in reading it, and your personal time that you're giving up for the good of the city. And now you want just 3 people to outdo 7 people because there's 2 on the board that agree with those 5 people, that we don't care what they say. You need to think about that and how that really looks. Those people have put time and effort into what they've done to make this a better place for all of us. And it would be nice if we would start going that way. And I don't agree with zoning a lot of times, but it's a checks and balance. So please consider, pray on it.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, right, so I believe that was all clear, sir. You have any more over there? All right, that was all. So we'll move on. Agenda item 2A, as I had mentioned earlier, is something that we took care of at the Monday meeting, so there will be no action on 2A. We'll move to 2B. Discuss and take possible action to amend ordinance section 155.1109. Councilman Pena.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for everybody that came out. I'm not sure, do we know how many people are watching online right now, by chance? I also want to thank council for all coming out here tonight for this special meeting. We wouldn't have had this meeting tonight if it was included in the agenda for Monday. We could have saved ourselves some time there too, but.
Councilman Pena?
Thank you. I'm good, Nick.
I'm sorry, but at this point in time, we're supposed to talk about the agenda item.
How would you prefer I say it, Jerry?
I would prefer
Would
you
you prefer I
to
say it in a
read.
song?
I would prefer
In a
you to.
one-act play, in a poetic format?
Councilman
I mean,
Pena,
come on, let me
I would
speak.
prefer- I would
I'm not here to speak in the manner you desire.
Councilman-
I'm here to speak. You didn't edit anybody else.
Councilman
Stop it,
Pena,
Jerry.
I would
Just stop
prefer you to read the agenda
Well, then-
item like we do on every other agenda item.
Well, should I
Is
just call
what I
the
would
question?
prefer.
Should I just call the question then, so we just avoid any discussion from me?
I'm fine with that. I'll call the question. Do we have a motion?
There's the transparency right there.
You asked for it.
I didn't ask for it, I'm asking you, do you want to do it? It's you. You want transparency? Let me speak.
I want you to go through the agenda, the meeting as we go through a meeting. Once we have a motion, you can speak all day long, which is what I expect is going to happen.
No, that's not what I expect is going to happen. You're going to play these games and try to make me the fodder in front of those that are in cahoots with your line of thinking, but that's another story for another day. I like how you're politicizing this to try to vilify me here in the public, but that's okay, I'm used to it. And the truth always comes out on social media anyway, so I'll make my post there. Finally, I get the crowd to laugh. Yeah, the motion is, well, I didn't get a copy of the agenda here in front of me, but do you have a copy of the agenda here that I can read?
Can you
what the
pass that
motion
down,
is?
please?
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Well, this is the memo. Done. I'm looking- Thank you, Clarissa. There you go.
It doesn't have the name on it.
Yeah, it's real simple. Thank you. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you so much, Sandra. I'll make a motion to discuss and take possible action to amend ordinance section 155.1109.
All right, council, we have a motion on the floor to discuss and take possible action on amending section 155.1109. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Davis. Now, council, Mr. Pena, any questions or comments on this item?
I do.
All right.
I have. First, again, I want to repeat, thank you for everybody coming out here tonight. I see everybody from Ward A and Ward B and Ward D. Do we need anybody from Ward C by chance?
Right here.
Where? Right here. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't see you. I see you right here. There's two residents here with cameras, so we're on their social media. What I love about this is that this is getting more eyeballs than it would have had it been on Monday. So this is actually a good thing. And then there's a list of petitions here about zoning changes for one of the properties here in the city, which I'm also glad about, because now we have more civic participation. And that's what this is about. Making sure that we have more transparency about what's really going on. You know, what most people don't know, well, you know what, I'm gonna touch on that in a minute. But I wanna first go through the comments of every resident here, because I wanna respectfully respond. This change to this ordinance is not about diminishing transparency. This change to this ordinance is real simple. I can go through all these comments, but I'll just keep it real simple. It's about removing the unnecessary political, uninformed, and for that matter, biased bureaucracy. By these petitions, this actually makes it even better because this change will then allow for more democracy, more transparency, more awareness for all of Freeport. Number one, that's the simple part. And number two, let's remember how this organization works in the city of Freeport. It's the public, number one. And then it's the council who's elected to represent the residents. So, I don't know, how many people voted in this last election, or collectively, how many votes did everybody get here? Maybe 500 folks total between the five of us? Maybe 600 folks?
494.
Maybe it was 1,000 folks?
494.
So, I'm not sure if you're gonna try to gavel the audience from heckling, Mayor, but I know that you've done it in the past. My questions are not discourse, they are rhetorical, thank you. The second point I want to make is that it's the public, it's the council, and the city hall. It's the public, it's the council, and then it's the boards. That's the way it works. At no point should any board have any leverage higher than, or decision-making powers, or authority, I should say, or power, because the powers were vested in every one of us up here. So yeah, we all have 1/5 of that authority, of that power, that people entrusted us with and voted for us to be up here to use. So yeah, this right here, I want to make sure everybody also knows the background of this. Do you know why this was changed? Does anybody know why this was changed?
I do. A third party did, according to best practices of the Texas Municipal League.
Mayor, can you gavel somebody or escort anybody that's getting out of line just heckling again? I think that was Andy Dill this time. I'm not asking the question. They're rhetorical questions, let me remind you. So this is simple housekeeping administrative. Why? Because the P&Z board and many folks in the community are not really dealing with the full deck of information. And when they are, there's bias. You want to know why we don't progress? Well, I think about that one wonderful quote. If you keep repeating the same thing and expect a different result, that's called insanity. So when people say, hey, so why hasn't these properties been developed? That's because probably, perhaps, the same people have been gatekeeping the process. Well, I can tell you this, we have 5 councilmen, and guess what? The same process is going to still be required for any zoning change in the city. And that means the notices have to go out, that means the residents get informed. So this here change tonight on this particular ordinance doesn't change any of that. Every resident still gets informed. So I hate for everybody to be thinking, oh my gosh, here we go. They're just going to make unilateral decisions in here. No, that's not the way the city council works. The whole notification for any zoning change is going to still be required. So in case anybody's been told of these completely incorrect lies, misrepresentations about the change of this rule and what it means for the rest of the city, that's entirely untrue. Entirely untrue. This is not a murder mystery, but I'm glad you guys are tuning in. This is not a soap opera, but I'm glad everybody's paying attention. Because when we talk about we need more housing, this change right here removes the bureaucratic tape. Removes the bureaucratic tape and it just completely entrusts the authority, the power within council and not a city board. Yeah, the boards were appointed by council. Some board members have been here before, some of these council members have been here. And there's a lot of good people on those boards. There's no question about that. But I don't even want to get into any specific development at this particular juncture, because I want to make sure that this is really understood, clearly understood, that the whole point of why I requested this change was because I wanted to make sure that the council decided, first and foremost, not any other board. And if there is one way to actually affect this whole process, and that's also by a petition, to require, so the residents that are actually directly affected by any development or any zoning change, they get to petition, and if 20% of those residents that perimeter whatever development we're considering as a city council, well then, at that point, there's a supermajority. That makes more sense, and I'll tell you why I like that so much. Because then you get hundreds more people involved, unlike just the 8 people that are here tonight, or the 6 or 7 people on P&Z. We get more people involved. So I can tell you this, I had a conversation with Andy Dill, and he's the chair of the P&Z. And I won't really get into a lot of the details, except for the fact to say his displeasure with a lot of the changes, or this one particular development, these 300 acres on this urban renewal property. Well, the threat was, well, we're going to get everybody petitioned, and we're going to have everybody there, with, you know, getting involved, and we're going to cause a whole bunch of ruckus. I'm paraphrasing. And I said, Andy, why would you do that? Let's dial down the drama. Let's dial down the soap opera. Let's keep the murder mystery out of this. Again, paraphrasing, using some language from this evening. I said, let's be proactive about this. And this is what I said. I always say this, don't say anything in private that you're not afraid to say in public. And I'm not afraid to say this. And I'm sure Andy's not afraid for me to say this. And I said simply, get the petitions ahead of time. Get the people organized. And then we can meet with them. Let's get the real serious stakeholders. So everybody here, I hope you guys are there, because Andy's going to be putting together a meeting so that we can have that meeting in a constructive, proactive way. And then we decide, hey, what do we want to do with that land, or this land, or that land, or this zone? Less drama. And then we get that answer, you give it to council, and we have a meeting with that developer. It makes absolutely no sense to barrage any developer, any company, with the dramatics, with people enraged, uninformed, to then basically create unnecessary drama, and for that matter, kill any kind of intention or motivation for development in the city. That's the drama we're trying to avoid. And I thought Andy and I agreed on that, because I think he said he was going to go ahead and try to get that done. And then I said, well, you know what, Andy, you do that, and then I'd like for you to be the representative for that group. And I'd allow Andy to be, or I'd invite Andy, I don't make the decision alone, but council could all decide, hey, do we want to invite Andy? Because he's been quarterbacking this whole process, well-intentioned, to make sure that the public is served. I wish we had a sixth council seat, because I like the fact that Andy does the homework. I like residents that do the homework. But I also like residents to be fully informed. This is not about any one particular one, but if you want any one particular development, but if you want to know why things are stifled, it's because we have old grievances, old grifts, and I haven't even talked about that yet, but I tell you, I am going to bring up here, not tonight, but the grift that has been going on with previous city councilmen and previous mayors that have stifled development that was red carpeted, negotiated, and agreed upon. And I'm going to get into that at a later date. But tonight, this is real simple. I want to touch on everybody else's quotes here tonight, but I think I've just made my point here. Again, I want to thank everybody that came out, and that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Council, any other questions or comments? Councilman Davis.
Once again, thank everybody for coming out. And once again, we want to make sure that everybody know that you are respected. You are, we understand that everyone is putting in volunteer time. We all are. And like they were saying earlier, you know, Mr. Hayes and Andy Deal and all them other guys that's on the board, they are putting in the work, you know. They are studying and learning, you know, the rules and the regulations of, you know, their craft. And so we do appreciate that. We kind of, I mean, I don't know. If it was that big of a deal, we would be calling to remove somebody off of that board. That's not, I haven't heard none of that. I don't think nobody needs to be removed on that board. Everybody is, you know, putting in their time, doing a great job, pretty good job. I mean, nobody can do a great job, but I mean, we can all do a pretty good job, you know, 'cause we all make mistakes. But I think Councilman Pena, you know, just made a point where, you know, where Mr. Andy Deal will be calling a meeting. You know, it's transparency, and that's what we're working on to get up here in all of our boards. But the main thing is to get the people involved, and that's a great point and a great avenue to be able to work with planning and zoning from here on out. You know, Mr. Hayes, you know, made a comment, hey, you said that we could have called you, you know, vice versa. I could have called them. True statement. And we're gonna work on that, you know, getting better than that. I mean, that's all we can do. I mean, you know, but it goes both ways. So, you know, I'm gonna make sure that, you know, I get involved in doing that. But getting the community involved, I mean, what better way can we come up and get ideas and get everybody's opinion, and so we can do, you know, try to make the best decision for Freeport, and knowing that we gave the citizens opportunity to have a voice in the situation, in the city that they live in the area that they live in. I mean, I don't think that's been being done. I think I heard a comment, and I was trying to ask him that the citizen wasn't notified. So I was trying to understand what he meant by the citizens wasn't being notified. But now the citizens are gonna be notified. Maybe I'll get that answer here in a little bit. But, but they should be notified. But all I can keep repeating is I'm not agreeing with annexing that or zoning that to full, industrial. It's not what this is about. It's not what this is about. And, you know, some of it is, I don't think that no board that's appointed by council should have more power over council. You know, I know the easy fix. Hey, vote him off. But no, he's not doing a bad job. He's not doing. They're doing a good job. They're putting in their time. So that's not the fix. You know, but that's just my opinion. And if we make all the decisions that we make up here, it has to be a majority. Y'all make in your boards, you make decisions, and it has to be a majority. But then it comes back to us, and if we don't agree with it, it's got to be a super majority. So that's what I don't agree with. But that's my opinion. You have an opinion. So don't hang me on a cross for that. I mean, you can dislike my opinion. You can disagree. But I hope we can get through it because I don't agree with everything everybody else say or some things that happen up here. But I get through it. We get through it. You know? So I just want to make sure, I mean, because people, you know, we have a petition signed here. So I have, you know, 4 people off of this list, you know, get in touch with me. Ask me what this was about. So they really didn't understand who was telling them and what, whoever was telling them, they didn't understand, you know, really what was going on. So we're telling people that we're signing a petition to stop a developer from selling property to Dow and building chemical plants. I mean, if we're gonna tell them, we need to tell them facts. And we don't have the facts. Only facts that we have is a developer asked to industrialize some property behind their house. We'll turn it into industrial. I'm sorry. That's all the facts that we have. Like Eric said, hey, he needs to do it. He needs to come and he needs to have a blueprint. He needs to have a plan, show us, what are you trying to put back here? What are you trying to put back here? And then we can take that to the citizens. Hey, this is what this developer wants to put back here. What are y'all, what are y'all concerns about this? Are y'all concerned about this? Is this a problem? I mean, it's a problem to me. I don't like it, and it shouldn't be, you know, I don't think that it should be. But, you know, y'all live over here. We gotta work together. I don't live here. I live in Freeport, but it affects us all at one point in time. We don't want plants back there. You know, we don't want, well, I see you spreading your hands back there, but, you know, I'm not, this rule is not changing to approve industrial. So why, I mean, it's not to change that. Not what we're talking about here at council. What he submitted to y'all was, I'm talking about what we're talking about here at council. So when we get a plan, where is the contract from the property when he purchased the property? You know, a lot of people saying, oh, in 2012, oh, 2015, he said this, and that. That's fine. It's probably true. It's true. But we're in 2025. Let's talk now. What are we talking about today? Because the plan didn't changed, obviously. But what did the contract say? Where is the contract? Can somebody bring the contract out? Do we have it? I mean, we sold the property, so show council this contract. We should have it. If you have it, show us the contract.
I have a copy at my house if you'd like to come by and see it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because a lot of, I mean, you know, people talking, nobody bring the contract out. Bring the contract out. Because the property's already been sold. So we have to go through and see, well, what kind of leverage do Freeport have? But it's not to do what you just turned in. We don't want that. You keep saying that, but we don't want that. We're not making it easy. We're not making it easy. It's 3 votes because you voted in by the public, the counter. How many votes it took for you to get into your seat? 3 votes. And we trusted that. We trusted that. I mean, we keep hollering 3 votes, but that's what it took for you to get in your seat. Yeah. No, don't. That's not the solution. We got to work together. Let's go. We need to get it done. We need to get the community, get together, everybody, sit down, come in a plan. Well, what are we willing to get? That's good, but we're here. We keep talking about something else, but let's talk about that. That's what we need to talk about. That's what we need to talk about, and that's all it is. We cannot. So what are we going to do? I think the developer has more property that's left over in Freeport than anybody.
There's 13 acres on 2nd Street that had a clawback clause.
He
was supposed to build on it within 12 months, but still haven't done it. That was 2020.
We're getting way offline.
No, that's the topic, ain't it?
I thought we were communicating.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it.
I'm all for communicating. However, we're going to run the meeting accordingly.
Okay, well, I'll let you know that was respectful. I asked the question, so but if that's out of line, we're gonna get back in line. I don't have a problem with that, but that was respectful to me. I asked the question, but so we gotta ask the question outside, at the house or whatever. But no, we can go rent the community house, and try to get some of these people that we got on this petition. And let's talk facts now. Let's talk facts now, because I talked to them. I talked to some. I grew up on one of these sides, on the south side of town. That's where I grew up at. That's where I go to church at. I know most of them people over there. So like I said, 4 of them reached out to me. So if I don't know them, they know the neighbor. So the neighbor know me. And they know me. They know my credibility. So they already told me, hey, what I need to do. If I need to sign something to take my name off of there, that's what I do. No, let's not, because we don't want industrial over there. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. But if it come, but I'm just gonna make sure that they get both sides of the story, like I do. So that's all we can do from here. We can move forward, we can sit down, we can talk, we can bring the developer in and try to negotiate with him. But today, we're not trying to change, I'm not trying to change no rule to approve what he turned in to y'all. That's all I can tell you. And I said it, it's on camera, I told it right to you in your face, you know. One thing I can say, you can't say that I done said something that was a lie, or I done lied to you, you know, and you haven't lied to me. So we still on good grounds. So I didn't look you in your eye. I know you still don't like what's going on on the agenda, but on the agenda it's not saying approve the 300 and some acres. That's not what we're talking about. So, but that's what a lot of people keep coming up here and screaming out in the public and making it sound like or saying. That's not what's happening.
Thank you, Councilman. How about on this side? Any questions or comments over here?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So our planning and zoning has 5 members appointed. There's been numbers thrown out last 7, 6.
Is your
There's
mic
5
on, Councilman?
Yes, it is. There's 5 members on our planning and zoning that should be appointed. Right now, we're down to 4. Mr. Hayes, Mr. Dill, Mr. Sacamano, and Mr. Bachman. Every single one of those individuals brings a unique and different perspective to that planning and zoning. They come from different careers. And so it's always good to have a good, diverse board like that. Because what one individual may look and see, another one may see something different. And they bring those different viewpoints. And they get to then look at what's the best interest of our city. The item that went in front of them was to change residential property to industrial. It didn't state either of the 2 categories. It just stated industrial. You have light industrial or heavy industrial. And so that is what...
So far, excuse me a second, Councilman. So far, half of what both of y'all said wasn't on the agenda as well. So we're going to allow this as well. Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor. And if you look at the categories, light industrial says manufacturing, small distribution centers, packaging. Heavy industrial, chemical manufacturing, mining, power production. So they had concerns. So that's why they did their research and made their decision. Now, reading this agenda item in front of us that we're speaking about tonight, it's been stated that planning and zoning shouldn't have any ultimate authority, which they don't. Because I'm going to ask Mr. Duncan a legal question. if there's a zoning change, does it still come in front of council to be ultimately approved?
Yes, all zoning changes must come in front of council.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Duncan. So it still comes in front of us. We still have to make a decision. So the statement in this background, or item summary, it says they want to amend this section to ensure that city council remains ultimate authority over changes without the need of P&Z approval or review before consideration. I mean, we have the ultimate approval. What this reeks of is, hey, let's just, if they don't approve the way I want it, then let's just discard them and we'll make it how we want. Eliminating that checks and balances. City of Freeport was created in 1957 with the merger of Velasco and Freeport. A lot of smart men and women have come before us and made a lot of changes to our charter, to our rules, to help create these checks and balances. And then to just, in one fell swoop, say no. What's been decided upon decades, nah, I don't want to follow those rules. Let me just eliminate them altogether. It's pretty short-sighted. Because then next thing you know, it's going to be like, well, you know what, let's just do away with any planning and zoning, or any zoning. Let's go to Houston, free-for-all. I'm going to build a 6-story high-rise next to a little single-story house. It's truth. Every single one of those members on our planning and zoning, and all of our boards, I don't agree with people. Me and Mr. Hayes, we don't agree on stuff. But you know what? I respect his opinion. And so, in closing, we as council still have the ultimate authority. Amending this section would be short-sighted, foolish, asinine. It would be a murder to our democracy. And I will vote accordingly.
Thank you, Councilman. In our packet, or actually it's not in our packet, it was emailed to us today. This question is for Mr. Duncan. You have the ordinance prepared that was sent out today. I'll give you a second to pull it up. Okay.
Hold on, Mayor, sorry. I did not receive that.
You were included on it.
I was? For
Yes.
today?
847. this morning?
To my city email? Because I'm looking at my city email and I do not have it. And I can show my.
It was not sent to your city email. It's at Comcast.
Okay.
I'll give you a second to find it and look it over while I ask. Now it won't pull up what's going on here. Too many people are looking.
It's out front, too.
All right.
It's out there.
So as I'm reading this proposed ordinance, it is my understanding that Section A of 155.1109 is the only part that is being changed?
Correct.
Okay. If you would, I want you to follow along with me. Section A says, generally, requests for amendments to the text of this chapter may be initiated by the written request of the Planning Commission. I'm going to stop there, and can you describe us how that process looks?
Okay, so that's the same, that part of the text is the same as it was originally, right? So basically, there's different ways that proposals can be brought forward to say, hey, we want some change. Well, this paragraph is very specific. We want a change in the any part of this chapter, and a change that is not already covered by state or federal law.
Okay. So Planning Commission.
So that would, the Planning Commission would make a written request to the city manager or a city councilman saying, hey, we want to take up this matter. And we want, we want to review this and have a meeting about it. They put it on their agenda. They would then discuss it at the planning and zoning meeting and consider a change and then make a recommendation to the council.
Okay. Thank you for that. And we're not trying to change that. What was, if this were to pass, what was yesterday will still be tomorrow.
With regard to that, yes.
Okay. Now, on the amendment here, it says next is a city council member, whereas on the original it says city council.
Correct.
Okay, what is the difference there?
Okay. So this section, when it was enacted, you have certain changes that by state law, if you're changing a zoning regulation, right? You're changing something from R1 to R2. You're changing the definition of what R1 is. You're changing a zoning regulation that regulates land, right? Then by state law, you have to go through the standard procedure. The standard procedure is planning and zoning reviews it. You send out notices to those affected by the change. Planning and zoning considers it. Planning and zoning has a public hearing. They make a recommendation. They send it to the city council, and then the city council reviews that recommendation. This section, and so that process always applies under state law. That always applies anytime you're making a change to zoning regulation. Chapter 155 has other portions of other requirements that are not required by state law. And so, for example, the change of 155.1108 requiring the supermajority vote, that's not covered by state law. State law says simple majority, okay? 211 and state law says regardless of what planning and zoning does, they approve it, they deny it. Every city I've seen, there's no supermajority requirement. And so that's not already required by state law. So this would be, if it's not one of those that are already regulated by state law, this change would mean that since the council approved those original changes that are extra, not required by state law, but extra requirement, right? That then the city council, any city councilman could then put it on the agenda to be considered by the city council because if this, with this change, it would not, if it's not a requirement by state law that it has to go back to planning and zoning, then city council could change it on their own without going to without going back to planning and zoning. So that's why this is changed to a single city council member. If it's a change, it's not a zoning regulation change, but it's change of, and there are other requirements in here that aren't covered by state law. They're not set forth by state law. They're like extra requirements that were put in there in 2021. Because council created those extra requirements, council would then have the authority to change those extra requirements. And so a city councilman by himself or herself would be able to put it on the agenda and see if the council wants to change that extra requirement.
Okay.
And the administrator is the same as before. So if the city manager says, hey, I think there should be a change, and it's not covered by state law, it's not required under state law to go back and forth through planning and zoning, then the city manager could put it on the agenda and bring it before council.
I'm asking these particular questions because this, in fact, is what we're voting on tonight. We're not voting
That's
on
correct.
Wong, we're not voting on any of the other stuff.
Correct.
And I was able to read this in the parking lot at Buc-ee's in Port Lavaca.
Yeah. Well, I understand.
Sweet
It's-
tea and,
I appreciate that, the council needs to understand, what this language is, what it means, what the effect is, before you take any vote on it, right? And the public should know, be able to open meeting says they can see y'all's debate, right? And see y'all's deliberation. And so they should understand what the change is and what it isn't. So, like I said, before, the language before says, any change to anything under 155 has to go back to planning and zoning, right? This says, basically state law, changes to zoning regulations by state law have to go back to planning and zoning. But if it's an extra requirement that's not required by state law, then the city council could change it without sending it back to planning and zoning. And it is somewhat relevant to the other that we were discussing about, it would not only be that requirement regarding supermajority, because there are other extra requirements in the zoning that were passed in 2021, but it would affect 1108, because generally state law only requires a simple majority by council. And I've not seen other cities that require a supermajority.
okay, so far, the verbiage as far as a city council member, that just means a city council member can put it on the agenda and council can have the discussion at that time.
That's correct. And I'm sorry, another thing I want to point out is whenever any councilman wants to put something on the agenda with the city council meeting, they'll generally contact the city manager, city secretary, say, hey, I want to put this on the agenda. Then the city manager, city secretary will send it to me, and then I'll see that, and then whatever councilman is requesting that change, the council needs to have a document to review and vote on, right? So I will contact that councilman and have a discussion with them and say, okay, what do you really, tell me what you mean, because a lot of times, the agenda request is amend it. Okay, amend it how? What are you trying to do? And so it's my job to put it into the words that matches what that councilman wants to do, right? Now, whether a majority of council agrees with that or disagrees, or whether the public agrees with that or disagrees, my job is just to put it in the words or the desire that the councilman has, the result, make sure it's worded correctly so that if the vote goes through, it matches what they intended, right? And so, if, let's say, for example, we had 2, 3, 4 councilmen all wanted to say, hey, I want to pass an ordinance that's going to be different than what that guy said, right? Then it's my job to prepare 2, 3, 4, whatever ordinances, whatever ordinance matches the request of the council member. So, I just want to make sure that there's no confusion. Although I write the ordinances as requested, or resolutions or whatever, I'm not involved in the political part, right? It reflects nothing about what I would like to see, because I have no opinion. That's not my job to have an opinion. My job is just to prepare the paperwork as requested.
Thank you for that answer. So I have a concern with the verbiage on this about a city council member as opposed to city council. The reason I have an issue with that is in the past, we had it to where you had to have at least 2 councilmen to put an agenda item on the agenda. If we pass this with this verbiage, then this allows a single as opposed to, assuming we went back to multiple. Okay, if next week we decided to vote on going back to, we need 2 council. Yes, if we were to go back to this and this says A, then does this trump that, or does that trump this?
Okay, so what would have to happen is, you would probably need to make sure and be aware that there's a difference. And so if you're going to change the future to put, it requires 2 councilmen in the future, you probably need to come back and change this too, because this was worded as a member to match the current rule. So if you change the rule back to 2 or however many, then you would need to come back and change this too and make sure and remember that that's, so that there's not a conflict. Because then if there's a conflict, then there's confusion, and we'll have to see, it's undetermined, right? So it's better to make sure you cover everything.
Or better to leave that as city council as opposed to a city council member.
Well, and then the contrary to that is, then there's a difference between, there's a difference between the rules, right? Right? Because this would require, because this is not saying one single councilman can vote and approve it, right? It still has to be approved by the whole city council, majority of city council, right? So this is just to get it on the agenda. So if you left it as the council, that's problematic, because how would you get the whole council to agree to put it on the agenda? You're running a big risk of open meetings violations.
Chris, could you not put it such that it's worded, at least in reference to this point that the mayor is making, that it goes under the current rules of putting stuff on the council, so when the rule changes, changes?
That's a good idea. I mean, we can change that to say, or requested by the council members with the little s after it, right? Members pursuant to the rules then in effect for placing items on the agenda. And that would cover future changes.
Let's make it that way then. Good idea, Dan, thank you.
Well, that would need to be in an amended motion.
All right, we'll amend the motion.
Yeah, the other change that I see that's on this that is not on the current one is the very last sentence, which says, all other changes may be approved by majority vote of the city council.
Correct. And so if you read it, if you read the, it's kind of hard sometimes to change these, because you have, this is A, and so you have B, C, and D, and it has all the different requirements of going back and forth to planning and zoning. So it says the procedural requirements for amendments set forth in this section, so that would be B, C, D, and so forth, requiring it to be sent back to planning and zoning and so forth, are only applicable as required by Texas or federal law. So like I was talking about, state law requires changes of zoning guidelines, changing of, many portions of 155 are required by state law to go back to planning and zoning and go back and forth. So all of those requirements, those procedural requirements, as set forth in this section, all the rules in this section are only applicable to the changes that are required by state law. So the extra that was put in 2021, the extra requirements, the changes to those extra requirements could be changed by majority vote of council. So, yeah, I want to make sure that it's not confusing. It's, you know, there's no, yeah, make sure there's no confusion. Almost everything in 155 is a zoning regulation that would be required to go back and forth to planning and zoning, and that's required by state law. So this approved by majority vote of council is only for those items under 155 that are not required by state law.
Right.
Which is the crux of the issue before us in this meeting and the prior meeting is, you know, the supermajority vote. That's not required by state law, and so that could be changed by to a majority vote by city council without going through the procedure of going back to planning and zoning.
Good stuff.
Thank you for that. I am all for doing what is necessary by state law and federal law. However, I also feel like Freeport is its own entity. There are some rules that we abide by, we play by in Freeport that might be different than what they do in Austin or Lake Jackson or Angleton. So personally, I am okay with the ordinance as it is currently written. So council, before I call the vote,
Well, do we have
is there any other?
Do we have any
I said before I call the vote, is there any other
Yeah.
questions or comments on this? Councilman, also you're deep in thought.
Yeah.
Oh, he's good.
Well, I just wanted to say, you know, thank you, I mean, Chris, because I know there were some questions that y'all were asking, and I couldn't explain it like a lawyer. You know, he wrote it down, so he had to break it down to you, you know. So I'm glad that now, hopefully we understand a little better that, you know, it's not changing the whole thing. You still might not like the majority, supermajority thing, but understand that it's not messing with everything that's in there, and that state law required. It's only this piece that was changed. It was changed in 2021 by this. I'm not this council, but by council. So your bill, I understand. Well, it's new now, but you are able to change that, just like they were able to change it the way they wanted it to be. And able to change it, you know, to the way we wanted it to be. If it fail, it fail. If it goes, hey, that's why we be able to vote. It's just like when you go out and vote, hey, make your vote count.
It's called democracy.
Thank you.
Councilman Pena?
Yeah, I just want to touch on one last thing here. Yeah, it's as simple as that you guys have been restating here, but I just want to make sure that everybody understands something. That the founding fathers of this country, of this state, well-intentioned men. Same thing with the city of Freeport. But if we're going to sit here and say that those guys had it all right, well, all I can tell you is look at civil rights changes. Look at here in Freeport. That's at the national level, right? Look at property tax valuations and ad valorem taxes. Those have recently been changed. We just had an election yesterday. We had a lot of changes. But let me just be super clear about Freeport. There was a time where this city was mapped out so that minorities live on the east end, and that the way the voting happened is that The establishment was able to elect the same people over and over and over again. And the rules got changed so that new ideas, fresh ideas, different perspectives could be presented and considered. And so then they changed the ward so that every ward could select their own councilman. So I don't lean on this idea that they had it all entirely right. They didn't. What I believe is we're ready for change, we're ready for more residential, and this change on this ordinance helps that happen. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Anything else on this side before we move on? All right. With that, gentlemen, I'll call the vote. Once again, the motion on the floor is to approve amending the ordinance section 155.1109. I'm sorry?
It's 09.
Oh, yeah, A. I don't have the memo up here. Attorney said that's cool, the way it was.
Oh, somebody come back and say you missed the letter.
Mayor, do I also need to modify it to put that pursuant language?
Yes, you need to modify.
You already did that, but there was no second.
Okay, well, I'll make that modification that you brought up so that it complies with what your concern was.
I'll second.
Okay, you had the second on the motion, so you'll have to accept the modification. Hearing that, all those in favor state aye.
You ready?
Hold on, I was interrupted.
Chris, do they need to vote on the motion first and then back to the agenda item? The motion to amend. I made a motion to amend. I thought you had to vote on the motion to amend first, go back to the item.
No, you can just
No,
withdraw and do it
just-
again.
Just as long as the
We've done
one
it
who
that way.
seconded agrees to it.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to try this again. All those in favor state aye.
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 All opposed state nay.
Nay.
Nay. Motion fails 2-3. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now 7:28 p.m. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion by Councilman Matamoros. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in
We're
favor?
supposed to wait for like 4 or 5 hours before we call this vote. Yeah, we can't get out of here before 8 o'clock.
Aye.
All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?